Hello, I'm John Leidreiter, but I'm often called the tanning kit man. That's because we've been making tanning kits here at Leidreiters and selling them all over Australia and overseas since 1960. You'll be surprised watching this video how easy it is to tan small furred skins using a Leidreiters tanning kit. There's nothing hard about it. Now, a small fur skin is any furred skin that measures less than 3 millimetres or 1/8 of an inch when you measure the thickest place around the edge of the skin. That's measuring the skin without the fur, of course. If you're tanning skins that are thicker than 3 millimetre or 1/8 of an inch, you should be watching our other videotape, Tanning Thick Skin Hides. Now, Leidreiter's tanning method that we'll be demonstrating is a handcraft tanning method, and you'll find it interesting. It's also a good way to earn a few extra dollars from tanning small fur skins. Now let's go down into the tanning shed and see how they turn out. We'll have a look at some finished tan fur skins. Have a look at these skins. These are skins that were all hand tanned. This is a fallow deer skin that was tanned on New England. It's been tanned for many years now, but look, it's still soft. Makes a lovely mat. That's a good shooting trophy. Now, to tan little furs like rabbit skins is no problem. There's a woolly little one or a white one up here. Could hardly get a nicer fur. Calf skins, they make into lovely mats, or goat skins. Now, if you can get some prettily marked ones, they're really nice. Fox skins are some of the best furs around, and if you tan them in winter time, they're the nicest of all. Now, all of these skins were tanned with Leidreiter's tanning kits. Now, we've been making these tanning kits for about 30 years now, and you can buy these tanning kits from rural supply centres, most gun shops, some big department stores in western towns, saddlers, or direct from Leidreiters. Now, if you want to tan kangaroo and skins that are protected, or when I say protected, state parks and wildlife need to be consulted because they issue tags so that you can legally shoot these. Now, you'll need further information on that point before you go shooting and tanning kangaroo skins. You can tan them legally. The way to find out how to do that and get permission and tags is to phone State Parks and Wildlife on 066 281 177. After you've tanned these skins, you can do all kinds of interesting things with them, like handcrafts, bedspreads, and stuff like that. Now, I'll take you over here and show you some of these things. Here's a great handcraft idea for something you can make out of skins that have been hand tanned. Now, this is a soft bedspread. It's queen sized and it's really nice. To make it easier for you to sew, just take a square and cut these squares from the tanned skins. Or to save yourself some work, just tan the square pieces. It saves a lot of tanning. You can take the best of the fur off the back part and sew them together to make a bedspread like this. You couldn't wish for anything nicer on a winter's night. Now, another great idea for making up handcrafts from tanned furs is a jacket. This lovely little jacket is a lady's jacket. Darren, would you like to come and try this on so we can show how nicely it fits? Look at that, isn't that nice?
Feels lovely.
Now, I hope this has given you some ideas of what you can do with hand-tanned furs. We're going to go ahead now and show you how to tan furs soft and lovely like these. We'll be using this utility tanning kit to tan the small fur skins. Inside the kit, you'll find this booklet. We'll be following these directions in the demonstration. Tanning is essentially 4 steps. One is preparation. That involves salting the skins soon after they're skinned. Step 2 is fleshing, where we use the tanning knife in the kit to rub the meat and fat off the skins. Step 3 is the actual tanning itself, where we mix the tanning formula with water and add some salt and soak the skins. Step 4 is breaking, where we brush on leather lube. This is a softening, preserving agent. Then we take out the skins to dry. That's the overall picture of tanning. Now, let's start with step 1, preparation. This is a nice little fur skin, but it's been spoilt because it's lost a patch of its fur. Now, as you can see there, it's fallen out right here. That's caused by improper salting. The skin mightn't have had enough salt in that patch, or it might have had a patch of fat there. But it's terribly important with small fur skins to take the skins from the animals as soon as they're killed and cool the skin, apply a coat of fine salt, then another in 24 hours' time to stop bacteria from breeding. They breed at the hair roots, and you don't see anything wrong for weeks later when you go to wet the skin and tan it or soak it and the hair falls out. That's called hair slip. The way to avoid it is to watch carefully the salting procedure we're going to show you next. As we were just saying, salting is very important to fur skins so you don't lose the fur. Cool the skins soon after they're taken from the animal. And for this demonstration we're going to do two skins. We're going to do this pretty little calf skin and a fox. Now we use common cooking salt. That's the ordinary cooking salt you'd buy from the supermarket. Spread the skin out and inspect it for lumps of fat or blood. If there's blood on there, don't wash the skin. That breeds the bacteria that we're trying to kill with salting. Scrape it off with your knife and salt the skin. Leave the blood on there. It won't cause any harm. Now, with meaty patches, if the skinning wasn't all that it should be, trim them off, because salting over thick layers of meat or fat won't be effective. It won't let the salt get into the skin. So you trim off the meat. You don't have to be very careful about this, just big lumps of meat. It'll go through thin layers of meat, all right? Trim them off and throw them away. Okay, go all over the skin and check it. And if there are untidy lumps, or like a neck flap here, we'll take that off. That just reduces the work and makes the skin look neater. Now apply the salt evenly all over to a depth of about 2 millimetres. And make sure you rub it out to the edges so you don't have any turned over edges that aren't salted underneath. Now after 24 hours we'll salt this skin again. You'll find the second time when we come to it, it'll be quite juicy. The salt draws the juice out of the skin and makes it rather sloppy. We'll hang the skin up then when we come back to it in 24 hours and let the juice drain off for about an hour. Then we'll give it a second coat of salt. Right, now rub that out to the edges. Good liberal coat. Then fold the skin up. That's to stop it from dehydrating too much. And we'll fold in the edges so we don't lose the salt off the edges. It's skin to skin. And fold in the bottom of the skin and the neck, then make it into a small parcel. Right, now we'll roll that up in a jute sack or a newspaper parcel so it won't dry out too much and we don't lose the salt off it. We'll go ahead now with the fox skin and do the same thing. There again, with a fox skin, there's something to remember. We need to take the cartilages out of the ears. Again, put plenty around the face and make sure you put the salt right down the tail on the fox. If you don't split the tail open and salt right to the tip, you can lose some of the fur out of the tail. It spoils the look of a good fox skin. Again, rub it out to the edges and make sure it gets under all the folds, and take great care that we've run plenty of salt down the tail. Haven't salted the tail and rubbed it in. Put the tail up the centre. Fold in the two edges so we don't lose the salt. And roll it up. Put his face in and make a small parcel. And again, wrap that up in newspaper or in a jute sack until tomorrow when we'll salt it a second time. That's all there is to salting. It's easy, isn't it? It's now 24 hours since we salted these skins. I'll unroll this one and have a look at it. This is the calf skin, and you can see it's quite sloppy. That's because the salt has drawn the moisture out of the skin, and that's just what we want it to do. It dehydrates the skin to a controlled level of moisture. That spoils the habitat for bacteria, so it won't breed in the skin. Now, we'll hang this over the rail so it will drain. The idea is to let the juice drain off, and then we'll salt it again. We'll have a look at the fox skin too. Oh, see that? We can see that it's just as sloppy. It's gone all juicy. So we'll hang that one up too and let the juice drain off. Okay, now so we don't have to wait too long, we'll pretend that that's been draining there for an hour. We'll take it off the rack and give it a second salting. Now this second salt is important because this time the salt will stay on the skin, and the second salting will save that skin for 1 month in summer weather or 2 months in winter. Now during that time the skin's preserved with the salt. You should get round to fleshing it and tanning it. That gives you time to buy a tanning kit or put the skin through a tanning recipe. Right, we're using fine cooking salt, the same as the first time. You can use coarse salt, but cooking salt is much finer and much better. More of it absorbs into the skin. Now notice how much we use, enough to give it a thick coating and to rub right out to the edges of the skin. Now that's about right. Make sure that it rubs right out to the edge. Then again, fold in the edges. That's to trap the salt and to stop the skin from drying out completely. We don't want it to dry out. We don't want a hard, dry skin. We want a controlled amount of moisture in the skin. Fold in the two ends and make a parcel, and again roll it up in a jute sack or in newspaper and store it in a cool place. Okay, we'll do the same with the fox skin. Now, just for interest here, I was saying that after this second salting, the skin will last for 1 month in summer or 2 months in winter. You might want to tan the skin sooner than that. That's to say, as soon as you can. Well, you do have an option. Now, your option is to sprinkle the salt on a second time and then rub the salt right out to the edges like I showed you before, right down the tail. But if I wanted to tan this skin, say, tomorrow night, or that's 24 hours after I've salted the second time, I can do that if I sprinkle it with vinegar. Now, this is common table vinegar. You can use brown vinegar or white vinegar, but the one that's probably a little better than the other two is apple cider vinegar. Now, just sprinkle the salt again with the vinegar all over to make it sloppy. Then rub that out to the edges like I was just showing you. And leave this skin about 24 hours. That means tomorrow night I can go ahead and flesh that skin and put it straight into a tanning bath and tan it without having to wait. If I don't put the vinegar on, I need to leave the salt on the skin for at least 5 days. The salt changes the nature of the skin so it accepts the tanning chemicals and makes into stronger and softer leather. Well, that's the salting story. That's the end of the preparation. Right, we're ready to flesh the fox skin. we'll put it on a tanning beam. A tanning beam is just a curved surface with two extendable legs. And if you don't have one, you can improvise. Of course, we sell them at Leidreiters. Shake the salt out of the fox skin and put it on the tanning beam. Preferably use the utility tanning knife, that's the small one. Fox skins can be pretty easily torn, so go a bit steadily, especially around the flanks. That's there, and up here under the arms. They're pretty weak around there. Down the tail you need to be gentle too. Starting at the top and holding the knife with the teeth pointing away from me, that's a pushing action like that, not a raking action like this. That tires your hand and is not very effective. Now with short strokes and leaning against the skin, you'll find that the flesh membrane starts to roll up. Now if the camera comes in a bit close, yes, there we have it. You can see the flesh membrane peeling off. There it is, I'll just hold it up for you. See that there? It's that thin film of meat. And even where there appears to be no flesh on the skin, it's like Glad wrap and it stops the tanning chemicals from going into the skin, so we need to rake the skin all over to break it up. It's not a hard job. Now, here's something else. Throw that in the bucket. Fox skins often have a layer of fat on them. This one has. And if you look closely there, there's a layer of fat. Now, if I turn the tanning knife around, there's a blade on that side, a curved blade. Now, if I push that hard on the skin, you'll find that it will pick up the fat. You can see it there on the front of the tanning knife. Just wipe that off and drop it into the bucket. Now, if I go all over the skin like that, it'll take the fat out. Now don't forget, you flesh it first with teeth, then come back and rub the fat out. Not all fox skins are fatty, but if you have a fatty one, that's the best way to get rid of the fat. Okay, fleshing is not difficult. This is about a bit over half done now. Don't forget that hold on the tanning knife to make it work well. Right, now we'll do a little bit more fat again so we can see that action. Use a lot of pressure and push the blade away from you. See the fat there? It's picking up on the front of the knife. I'll wipe that off with my finger and go again. Okay, that's enough on the fox skin. Let's have a look at the little calf skin. We're going to tan it too, remember? Now, we'll shake the salt off. Put it on the tanning beam. Now this fella's a little bit bigger and it'll be easier work if we use a double handle tanning knife. That's the commercial tanning knife. Here it is here. We can share the work with two hands, makes it easier. Now using a tanning beam is important too because we're working downhill and that's much easier. Now start at the neck of the skin. Just check that I do have the neck. No, I've got his tail. It's often easier down the neck. And again, short strokes usually get started more easily than if you try to do long blows. Now if the teeth clog, just go down there and pull the skin tight a bit. If the teeth clog on the tanning knife, just clean them with your fingers. See, they're clogged there now. I just clean that and throw it in the bucket. Again, you can see the flesh membrane picking up there. Short strokes about 2 centimetres long. And I'll pick up the flesh membrane again. See it there? It's coming away. We need to wash the skins after fleshing them, to clean them and to remove any muck and any blood that might be dried into the fur. Now, to the wash water, we need to add some dishwashing detergent. That's any dishwashing detergent that you would use to wash dishes, Tricks, Comprox, anything like that. I'm using a dessert spoon for a measure. I'm going to put in a dessert spoon for every 2 litres of wash water we're using. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 10 litres of water will be enough to wash the skin. Now wash the skins for a few minutes to clean them, and after you've given them a bit of a wash, let them soak for a while. The soaking softens the blood. Use cold water too. It's best for softening blood. If you leave them stand for 15 minutes to half an hour, then come back and give them a rinse, it'll save you a lot of work, and it does do a better job. Right, now if you're lucky enough, or if Mum will let you, you could use a washing machine. Now after we've washed them, if we're doing them by hand, we'll need to rinse them. Now, if you can do this, this is even easier. These washed skins have been washed and wrung out and allowed to drip dry. Now we let them drip dry because we want to weigh them in a wet state but not a sloppy state. They've been allowed to drip dry for a few hours. Overnight's okay. So the drip dry weight of these wet skins is 6 kilograms. Now that's the maximum amount of skins that we can put into a half-litre tanning bath. A half-litre tanning bath is one that we make up with 36 litres of water. We need clean water, we need fresh water. Seawater's okay, but not bore water or hard water. We need to mix this in a plastic container because a metal container would react with the tanning chemicals and perhaps spoil the skins. So into the tanning bath we'll put half a litre of tanning formula. Now to that we need to add some salt. This is common cooking salt, fine salt, and 2 kilograms is the right amount. Actually 1750 grams, but we're not going to split hairs. There's a kilogram in each of these bags. Now I'm wearing gloves for this operation. Not because it's dangerous, but for health reasons. If you have cuts or sores, or you might be allergic to tanning formula, some people suffer from dermatitis, it's just wise to wear gloves. Now when we mix this together, that's a made-up tanning bath. That's referred to in the reference pamphlet. Give that a stir and put the skins in one after the other. When we add the skins, we need to see that we don't trap air. So if we feed them over the side like that and push them under progressively, we won't be trapping any air as they go underneath the tanning bath solution. You can see there was a fox skin and 2 nice calf skins. Now tanning time for these skins will be about 3 days. We'll check them each morning and each evening, see how tanning's progressing, and if needs be we'll take them out and do a bit more fleshing, and we'll test them for tanning penetration to see when tanning's complete. Right? Now that's all there is to that. That's the tanning process itself. This tanning bath is going to make these skins into leather. Gosh, that's heavy. These are the two calf skins and the fox skin that we put into the tanning bath the other night. They need to be checked to see how tanning's progressing. It's pretty nice outside, so I thought I'd do it out here. Now, to check a skin, just wring it out and put it on the tanning beam. Then with a Leidreiter's tanning knife, this time I'm using the commercial tanning knife again, give it a scrape all over. This is important because it does lots of things to help tanning. It stretches the skin and pulls the fibres apart, and that helps work the tanning chemicals into the hide. It also checks if you've missed any patches of fat or meat on the skin that would not tan through, and the hide will dry and tack out much flatter if it's had a good stretch in the second fleshing. Now, the tanning chemicals have a softening effect on the meat and fat, and this time they come off more easily, so there was no point in spending a lot of time with the first fleshing when you're going to do a second one, and the job's easier this time anyway. And while we're there, we'll have a look to see how tanning is progressing. We need to know whether the skin's nearly tanned or completely tanned. To do that, we pick a thick part of the hide, and that's around the neck on a calf hide, and we make a nick with a sharp knife. We look at the thickness of the skin. Now, the tanning chemicals only come through from the flesh side, they don't come through the other way. The blue colour starts to penetrate through from the flesh side through to the hair side. Now, you may not be able to see it there, but if there's a faint blue colour on the hair root side, it's completely tanned. It doesn't have to be an even blue colour. That's a little bit white there. It's not quite through, but nearly through. So I'll check that in several places. But to help that tanning penetration, if I want to hurry it up or the skin isn't tanning as quickly as I'd like, I can take the old vinegar bottle again and do the vinegar trick. That's where you just souse the skin all over with vinegar. Here again you can use table vinegar, apple cider vinegar, white vinegar, brown vinegar. It doesn't really matter. I'll wet that skin all over and leave it stand for a couple of hours, then put it back in the tanning bath. This isn't essential, but it's a big help. All right, there it is, wet all over. I'll do that all over it. While I'm here, we'll check the little fox skin too. The same routine. We'll give him a rub over with a tanning knife, make sure we haven't left any fat on there. You need to be a bit more gentle around the flanks on a fox so they could tear. And there's a little bit of meat. We'll go gently there. There's a little bit of fat up here. We'll take that off with the blade. Just rub that across the fat and it picks up on the blade. Wipe it off and throw it on the ground. Okay. Here again I'll make a nick round the tail and up round the neck. That's where he's thick. And see if he's tanning through okay. He's just about through. What I'll do, I'll leave them in the tanning bath another night. I'll souse him with vinegar too because that helps tanning. Right. Just wet him all over with the vinegar and right down the tail too. Just rub it on with your hands. All over his face.
Here we go. One more skin, the other calf. Okay, I won't go through the routine with this one, because you know what to do. We'll put them back in the tanning bath and come back here tomorrow afternoon and finish the job. We'll check these skins again. This is the following afternoon from when we checked them last, and we'll have a look how they're going. Now this time we can give them another rub over, but I won't go through that. It only helps to stretch them. It's not terribly important, so I think they're ready. Now, making a cut at the neck again to check the tanning penetration, see if it's tanned through. There, I don't know if you can see that, but the blue colour has gone right through, and it's blue right to the hair roots. That's what we're looking for. Now, I'll test this in several places, and if it's okay, tanning's complete. We'll check it, say, down the side here. And yes, that's fine. And round the tail. Yes, it's blue right through there too. So we can assume that if it's tanned through in the thick places, it'll be tanned through all over. The little fox skin being thinner, we'll still check him up round the neck's the thickest part. Make a little nick, and yes, he's finished. We'll check it again on the other side, and I can see there without any doubt that tanning's completed. Those two skins are tanned. We've got a third one in there we'll do later, but let's go ahead and put on the leather lube with these two skins, then tack them out. Before we do that, we need to wash them. Now, into the wash water, we have a bucket here with water in. We can put in half a cup of washing powder. At this stage, we can use washing powder. We can use Omo, Drive, any one of a number of washing powders that you would use in your laundry. Don't use bleaches or any other cleansers, but washing powders are fine. Now, wash that around in there. Wash the skins very well, because we need to wash out all the salt that's been put into the skin. We want to get rid of the tanning chemicals and get rid of the animal smell. If we wash it well and let it soak, say, for an hour, then wash it again, we'll do all those things. Now, if we wanted to neutralise it, that's to take more of the acidity out of the skin, we could throw in to this wash water a handful of bicarb of soda. That'd help reduce the acidity of the skin even further and make it neutral. That's not essential, but it's sometimes handy if you're going to make up handcrafts out of the leather and you put metal rivets in and they might rust. The bicarb soda would stop that. Now, after you've washed them very well, just give them a rinse. The same for the little fox skin. All right, then wring them out and let them drip dry. We need to be careful at this stage to get the wrung out drip dry weight, because it's from that wrung out drip dry weight that we calculate the amount of leather lube to put on the skin. Now, if the skin's very sloppy wet, it'll weigh heavier than we intend and we'll put on too much leather lube. That problem can be remedied later, but it's an extra step. If we don't put on enough leather lube, the skins will harden and they can't always be saved. The leather will set hard and they may not be soft furs, and you may not be able to fix that. So do take care. You need to know the weight of the skins. It's the drip dry, wrung out wet weight. Now, to get that weight, I could leave that overnight and weigh it in the morning, but I happen to know it weighs 3 kg. We'll check that now. We weighed it early, if you remember. At this stage you need to be sure, because a guess could spoil the softness of your finished fur. Yes, it does weigh 3 kg. And the little fox, he weighs just 1 kg. We might take the fox first, and we need to calculate the amount of leather lube that's needed. What we might do here is tack him out and then calculate the leather lube. I'm using a little tacker gun because it's quick, but a hammer's fine. Hammer and nails, there's nothing wrong with the old hammer and nails. Right, that's got him pegged out. Now I'm going to cut this leg off and pin it up separately. It was longer than we needed anyway. That's going to be a sample piece that we'll let dry. We won't put any leather lube on it. Now, some of the important reasons to use leather lube are that it preserves the skin. You don't have to put any other preservatives or softening agents on the hide when it's tanned in later life. It will last for the life of the hide. And it preserves it in a washable state. That means that if the mats get dirty or your fox skin gets dirty, you can put them in the washer and wash them any time. You still don't have to put any other preserver or softening agent on. Right. Now, if you remember the little fox skin weighed a kilogram. Now, a quick way to measure the right amount of leather lube is with a dessert spoon. Before we do that, we need to shake the bottle very well because the ingredients inside separate. They're meant to. It's through separation that they separate into the two layers of the skin. That's the dermis and the epidermis. And the ingredients here soften the skin and preserve it better that way. So I'll measure 20 of these. 1, 2, 3. That's 120 mils, by the way, if you have a measure. This is just a quick way to do it. If you measure quickly, that runs out about the same. Right, now we're going to put that on with a paintbrush. And while we're brushing it on, we keep it stirred because it separates fairly quickly. Now I've pulled the ears through to this side because we want to be able to put a little bit of leather lube up on the inside of each ear so that it'll dry soft. Okay, get right up into the corners, around the nose. And we split the lip out here, by the way. You need to do that, otherwise you'll lose his whiskers. That needs to be split at the time of skinning so that you can salt in there and it'll tan later. The same with the nose. Get well in behind the nose there with a little point of a sharp knife and take out the gristle. If you don't do that, you will lose hair around the nose while it's tanning. Okay, now there's no ability needed here. Just slop it on as quickly as you can. Make sure you get it right down the point of the tail. Try not to wet the fur with the leather lube. To do the calf skin, shake the bottle again very well. And I've already measured into here 360 mils, which is the right amount for 3 kg of calf skin. While I'm brushing it on, I stir it with the brush to keep it mixed and slop it on fairly quickly. Try and get it evenly. Now sometimes the skin might be too dry and that sops up or absorbs the leather lube so quickly that you can't get it to spread all over the skin. If that happens, here's an easy answer. Just pick up a bucket with some water in it and slosh that onto the skin, wet it. That'll stop it from being so hungry when you put the leather lube on. It won't dry in so quickly. Wet it all over, it won't do any harm. And then go ahead and brush the leather lube on. And of course if it's too runny, we'll just wait a few minutes till it's drained off again. You'll be right. There we are. Look, that goes over and covers it very easily there, no trouble. All I'll do is put this on the skin and let it dry. Now I've picked the skin out reasonably tight to get the wrinkles out of it. Not as tight as I can get it, that just makes hard leather. And I'll take it down tomorrow as soon as it's about 75 to 90% dry. Before it's completely dry, because if I leave it there till it dries right out, it tends to harden the leather. And of course on a hot summer's day I wouldn't put it out in the sun either. Winter sun's okay, won't do any harm at all. We'll come back to this tomorrow and finish the job. These skins are ready to come down. They're not 100% dry, but then it's best if we pull them down while they're a little bit damp. They're 90% dry, but anywhere from 80 to 90% is a good time, because if you take the tension off the pins, they dry a little softer. How's that one? Now with a fox skin, take care when you're pulling the pins, because around the flank here they're very thin, they'll tear. Support him at the back with 2 fingers and ease these ones out very gently. So if they tear outwards, not into the skin. The last process in tanning small fur skins is breaking. That's stretching the leather fibres and softening them. Now when a skin dries straight from the animal, the leather fibres glue together, and you're all familiar with how hard they turn out. They rattle and they're quite boardy. If we use leather lube, it goes between the fibres, and they tend to dry together hard, but they can be stretched and softened. And once you've done that, the skin will stay soft permanently. Another advantage to using leather lube is that it will soften the skins and leave them in a preserved state. You need not apply any other leather softener or preserving agent for the life of the skin. It also leaves the skin in a washable state. If you ever need to wash it, you can. Now, I'm using Leidreiter's commercial tanning knife, and with the curved blade, pushing it across the surface of the skin. Now this is a hard rubbing action. Now these strokes are about 1 centimetre or ½ inch apart. I go all over the skin in one direction, then I'll turn it round and go across these rubs at right angles. That's like a crisscross lattice pattern. Let's try it the other way. Now you'll see the difference there. Where I've done that, the skin is quite soft and pliable, and where I haven't, it's still hard. Now you might recall, I'll do the whole skin and show you later, the skin's on a pad on the tanning beam. That's a skin gripping pad that has yield, it's soft. If you wanted to improvise, use a piece of carpet, maybe something like that. Now you might recall we put a piece of skin on the wall that we didn't use leather lube on at all. So I'll try to break that. It's not making any difference. The point I'm making here is that those fibres glued together and the leather's gone hard, and I can't soften it. So if you don't put enough leather lube on, your skin could dry a little bit harder than you'd like. There's not a lot you can do about it, so take care. Now the fox skin, remember we lubed him, and this is a utility tanning knife,
Again, when breaking, we use the blade and push it away with pressure. Same hard rubbing strokes. All over one way, then across the other. Now this skin's breaking up nicely. It's very soft, look at that. But there is something wrong with it. We've got too much leather lube on it. Now, if you put too much leather lube on, it will make the skin nice and soft, and there is a way to fix it, so it's not as serious as if you didn't put enough on. What we need to do here is break the skin all over, then wash it. We'll wash out the excess leather lube. To do that, we'll use a bucket, and into the bucket we're going to pour mineral turpentine. That's paint thinners. It's not automotive paint thinner, but it's used for thinning enamel paints. Don't be tempted to use petrol for this job, it's a bit dangerous. In fact, it's very dangerous. Now don't be frightened to wash the skin very well. You can't do any harm. Now squeegee it around and wring it out. You'll only be able to wash out the excess leather lube. You won't wash out too much. That's not possible. Leather lube chemically fixes into the leather and stays there permanently. You can see I gave that a thorough wash there. And squeeze him out. Right, now the next step is to remove more of the mineral turpentine, and with it will go the excess leather lube. Don't put this on your tanning beam pad because it will undo the adhesive and the pad will fall off. It's a solvent for the glue that holds the pad on. The best way to handle this is to take an old piece of carpet or a sack and put the fox skin on it. With a utility tanning knife, squeegee out the excess turpentine, and with it will go the leather lube. See that? Going from the centre of the skin to the edge seems to be the easiest way to do this. And down the tail. Now if I feel I've saturated the carpet underneath, I'll pull it up onto a new place, because we want the carpet to absorb from underneath the excess turpentine. To get rid of the remaining turpentine, I'll just hang this on the clothesline with a couple of clothes pegs. That lets the air get at the fur side and the skin side. And I'll leave it in the sun. I might need to turn it a few times and the sun will eventually take out all the turpentine smell. I'll then bring it back onto this pad and give it another breaking with the tanning knife. As you can see, I'm just sanding off the skin. You'll remember I did the breaking on it. Now I'm just finishing it off. I've sanded it all over with a power sander, and I was wearing a dust mask. That's a wise idea to keep the dust off your lungs. Now something else you can do to make a skin look nice when you've finished it is to trim the edges. because there are brittle nail holes, there are nail holes and brittle edges I should say, that spoil the feel of the skin and the look of it. Now the leather lube absorbs in from the edge because the skin's a bit like a piece of blotting paper, and it sucks the leather lube in, and that leaves the edge brittle no matter how careful you try not to. So we'll trim the edge off, and that's pretty easy if you have a sharp knife and a weight on one corner of the skin. Now you'll notice I'm holding the skin up off the table and just taking a nice contour line right across the skin. That's a very easy job, and it improves the feel of the edge of the skin and the appearance. Now if you're going to sell skins, it's important to sand them off. I'll just take this one over and show you the difference. Now there we are, you can see it there. This skin looks scruffy. The surface fibres are called bloom, and they're just tags of skin that have been pulled during the fleshing and the breaking operation. Now it doesn't really matter to the quality of the leather or the lasting of the skin, it's only for appearance, but if you're selling them, as I was saying, this looks much nicer. Okay, that pretty well finishes our two little calf skins. As you can see, they're rather nice. Now, one more thing, let's not forget our fox skin. I've already sanded this off and I've trimmed it, so that part's been done, but there is something more you can do to make a fox fur look really nice. And that's to fur dress it. That's a pretty easy job to do too. What we need to do is use some fur dressing talc. Now that's industrial talc and pine sawdust mixed together. If we use a few cupfuls, tip it into the bag and put the skin in, then put a rubber band around the top of the bag. That's fairly important because it keeps all the dust in. The aim of this process is to actually wash the fur of the fox skin. The same as if you were using water, only this time we're using a dry fur dressing talc. Now you rub it into the fur with your hands, and when you feel that you've rubbed it into the fur all over the skin, rub the fur together in a washing action. Now the more I do this, the nicer the fur will be. The talc has a shining, polishing action on the fur fibres, and it makes them stand up, and you'll be surprised at the difference it does make. Having washed it for a few minutes, I'll lift the bag up and shake it gently inside the bag. That gets a lot of the talc down to the bottom of the bag. Then take the skin out. And of course you can see why we're working outdoors. We'll just take this over here and shake it to get the talc out. Now if I just keep flicking that till the talc's gone, you'll find it won't be dusty. Change ends and hold the fur in several different places. Okay, we'll just wait till the dust clears and have a look at this. You'll see that fur is truly magnificent now. It's got sheen and lustre like it didn't have before. Well, now you've seen how it's done. Tanning small fur skins from start to finish. We tanned these three skins with a Leidreiter's utility tanning kit. If you'd like to go further and enjoy tanning more, I'd suggest you buy a copy of this book, a handbook on knife skinning and tanning written by myself. There are a lot of hints in there on tanning skins, a lot of handcraft ideas, a lot of recipes on how to tan skins with wattle bark and common bush tanning recipes. Other ideas are on how to skin animals. There's a lot of information and drawings on skinning techniques